This is Wendy Daniels with Revolutionary PE, and this is Body Systems. Body system I want to talk to you about is your respiratory system. These are your lungs. So if I was to remove one of Boo Boo's lungs and we were to look inside, we would see arteries and veins. So what happens is when we inhale, oxygen goes into our bloodstream, and then it goes into the capillaries that are in our lungs, and it oxygenates the blood. And then when we exhale, carbon dioxide is leaving our body. So if Boo Boo here just finished working out, then when he's breathing, all of that air goes into his lungs, and the CO2 goes across the membrane of these veins into his bloodstream. And when he exhales, that carbon dioxide comes out. So we call this respiratory system, respiratory. But we can't have the respiratory system without the circulatory system. The circulatory system is our heart. And your heart is beating bump, 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 bump. And what happens is that when you work out, all the oxygen goes in your muscles, and the blood leaves the muscle and goes back to your heart. It pumps into the capillaries in your lungs, where you get rid of the CO2, and then when you breathe in, the oxygenated blood goes back into the heart, and it goes out the aorta back to your muscles and your brain to provide oxygen. So we sometimes call the heart the double pump, because it's pumping oxygenated blood to your body where it needs it, and then taking away the carbon dioxide waste. If we were to look inside of your heart, we would see that there are 4 chambers. The 2 upper chambers are your atrium, the 2 lower are your ventricles. So I don't want to break his heart. So this is your chest cavity. If we get into your abdominal cavity, we would call these organs are part of digestion. So this is your liver. If we look at your liver breaks down medicines and any toxins in your body. So if you were to take some kind of medicine, maybe for a headache, that would be broken down by your liver, and then it gets in your bloodstream to help you. But it's very important that we only follow the directions on that medicine, or we could hurt our liver and our body. Okay, the liver also makes bile, and it's stored in this small little organ called the gallbladder, which I'll tell you about later. So when you chew your food, digestion begins here in your mouth with saliva, and it breaks down some of the food as it travels down into your esophagus, into your stomach. When it gets to your stomach squishes it into a liquid, and it uses hydrochloric acid to break down all those food molecules so it could be absorbed into your bloodstream. When it's a liquid, it leaves and goes into the small intestine. When it first goes into the small intestine, most digestion takes place in those first few inches, because that's where the gallbladder dumps the bile that helps break down fat. So if we eat a fatty meal like a cheeseburger and french fries, sometimes we don't feel so good, and it's high in fat, and that gallbladder is using that bile to help break down the fat and digest it. So when it's digested, it would go through the small intestine, all of this, and then through the large intestine. And then when it gets to the very last few inches of the large intestine, we call that the colon. And then it leaves the body. Okay? So that is the digestive system. If we were to talk about the urinary system, that has to do with when you drink water. When you're drinking any kind of fluids, it goes still down your esophagus into your stomach, but then when it's absorbed, those liquids get filtered through your kidneys. You have 2 kidneys. You have 1 kidney on each side, and it filters the liquid, and then anything that it doesn't want your body to have, like if you didn't need all of that liquid, or if you had too much salt or electrolytes, then it would leave your body after being filtered through the kidney, and it would be stored down here in a round organ called the bladder. And we all know that when our bladder's full, we feel that pressure, and you'd raise your hand and say, hey, I need to use the bathroom. And then we would excuse you to go use the bathroom. So that tells you a little bit about your body. So we have the urinary system. We have the digestive system. We have the circulatory system. And we have the respiratory system. The last system I want to talk to you about is the nervous system. That includes your brain, your spinal cord, and all your nerves. So if we were to take out Boo Boo's brain and look at it on the inside, we could see that it has different parts to it, and it has a blood supply, so it can get oxygen. And when Boo Boo's looking through his eye, it sends a signal to his brain. If he was to put his arm against a hot stove and he would feel that it was hot, the signal would go to his spinal cord, and it would send a message back for him to move his arm. And then it would send another message all the way up to his brain saying, ow, that's hot. And that's what we call a reflex. So because we get that signal that tells us to move, then sometimes we don't feel like we're injured until after. So first we move, and then we get another signal that tells us that we're hurt. So that is part of the job of the nervous system. The brain also controls your breathing, it controls your heart, and it controls your digestion. But that's not something we have to think about. If you want to play sports, our brain gets signals to tell us to move, but it's because we're voluntarily moving. So we have involuntary, which is when our heart beats and we're breathing. We don't have to concentrate on those things, thank goodness, right? And then we have voluntary, where I can choose to move my arm or kick a ball. So that is our nervous system. Teach the bones to students. I talk about what they're for. So we talk about the cranium and how it protects our brain. Our vertebrae protects our spinal cord, and how our rib cage protects our organs. Then when we get to specific bones, we talk about, for instance, the radius, thumb side up, the ulna, and it's pinky up. So because we're like this, we were talking about kindness, so we say shaka, shaka. And then when we get to the femur, we talk about how it's the biggest bone in the body. And then when we talk about the fibula, it's the lower bone in your leg that's much smaller, like a small fib. So, which if there is any kind of small lie, they're all lies, but we call it a fib. So it is the smaller bone in your leg. We go through we start off a bone at a time, each time that they come, until we get to the whole song. So here is the whole song. Cranium, cranium, vertebrae, vertebrae, rib cage, ah. Humerus, humerus, radius, radius, ulna, ulna, shaka, shaka. Carpals, carpals, metacarpals, metacarpals, phalanges, phalanges, pelvis, pelvis, femur, femur, patella, patella, tibia, tibia, fibula, fibula, tarsals, tarsals, metatarsals, metatarsals, phalanges, phalanges. When we learn the muscles, we talk about how the bicep bends our arm, the tricep straightens our arm. The deltoid allows us to raise our hand for a question, and then our abdominis, rectus abdominis, allows us to do our curl-ups, and our obliques allow us to do elbows to knee. We can twist. Gluteus maximus, so we do it in our squats, so we squat a little, and then we have 4 for quadricep. We get into a squat and we do quadricep. Quadricep that allows us to straighten our leg, and then the hamstring that allows us to bend our leg, and that we have to have those working together. Trapezius, the trapezius muscle is an upside down triangle and allows us to shrug our shoulders, So, and then to go up on our toes, when we go up on our toes, that is our gastrocnemius. Ready? Here's our muscle song to practice as we're leaving. Biceps,
Biceps,
triceps,
triceps,
deltoid,
deltoid,
whoop, 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 trapezius,
trapezius,
pectoralis major, pectoralis major, rectus abdominis,
rectus abdominis,
obliques,
obliques,
gluteus maximus,
gluteus maximus,
quadriceps, quadriceps, hamstrings, hamstrings, gastrocnemius.
gastrocnemius.
And that's our muscle song. For a full year of lesson plans and games like this, get lesson plans for elementary PE on Amazon now.